This is Christine.
And I'm Kyle.
All right, and this is Misdiagnosed, the podcast. And this time we have a very special guest, Dr. Darwin Hayes, who is also known as the new dentist coach. All right, so we have a few questions for him that we're going to go over. We have a few very serious questions and we have a couple silly questions because we want everybody to get to know you.
Yeah.
Inside and outside of the office, okay?
Sounds good.
Thanks
for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. So, of course, we want to start with knowing a little bit about you, what your background is, where you're from, where did you go to school, both undergrad and dental school?
Oh, man. How much time we have?
As much as you need.
I'm from New Jersey. I was actually born in Saudi Arabia. My parents were overworking. My dad's a dental technician, and he was working in Saudi Arabia. My mom was a teacher at the time. I don't remember anything about Saudi Arabia. I was only there for about 6 or 7 months before we came back to the States. But I'm from New Jersey, went to undergrad at the University of Virginia, where I was, listen to this, I was an architect major.
What?
Graduated with a BS in architecture, ran track in college. After college, I actually worked for about 3 or 4 years before going and applying to dental school. Went to Dental School University of Maryland in Baltimore, the first dental school in the world. And currently, I'm actually a program director for Bronx Care, formerly Bronx Lebanon GPR program in New York, second largest GPR program in the country as far as the number of residents. We have 34 first-year residents and 4 second-year residents. So we have a total of 38 residents. And so that's a little bit about me. I was also in the Air Force after doing a residency. After dental school, I did a residency, and then I went into the Air Force. Was active duty Air Force for about 4 years. Was stationed in Las Vegas. Was stationed in Korea during 9/11, and was also stationed at the Pentagon in D.C.
Oh, wow. You, sir, have done a lot. Like, I'm glad you.
Exactly.
I'm glad to be talking to you because I feel like I have a lot more personal questions I need to ask you. I'm like, can you help me with my
It's been a very interesting 20 plus years.
That's wisdom. All the gray hair you point to, wisdom and experience.
Like it. The only other thing I did.
All right, Dr. Hayes.
Oh, I'm sorry. The only other thing I didn't mention as I was after I did my 4 years in the military, I went into private practice down in Houston, Texas. Big cosmetic practice in downtown Houston. That's where I learned a lot about the business of dentistry. And not only the clinical side, but a lot about the practice management, people management, revenue generation, outflow and marketing and promotion and all the things that we don't learn in dental school. So that was a great experience. Learned a lot about cosmetic dentistry. Also learned about clear aligner ortho. The office I was in, we were the #1 producers of Invisalign as general practitioners for about 3 years. We did over 100 cases a quarter, which had never been done in dentistry in Invisalign, and I got a whole bunch of other stories about that too. But great experiences. Had a practice also in California. I moved to California some years ago. Had a practice in Burbank, California. Was working there for about 4 years. Unfortunately, I had to close the practice. I had to come back to the East Coast to handle some family matters. And I've been back to the East Coast now about 10 years, working in both corporate practices, private practices, hospital practices, where I'm at currently now in Bronx, Lebanon. So that's me.
Like we said, that's a lot of experience. And so, Dr. Hayes, talk about some of the obstacles that you faced during your application process into your residency and also dental school, and a lot of, for your example, your applicants who apply for the GPR. What's some obstacles that you most commonly see?
Well, that's like 2 questions. So let me do the first part. The obstacles I remember from dental school was, as an architect major, I didn't have a lot of science. I had physics, and I think I had physics, and I think I had physics. That was it. had to go back and actually take biology, chemistry lab. The only class that I didn't have to take, thank God, for the University of Maryland at that time was organic. I got around, there was no organic chemistry requirement at that time. So that was
exactly.
I was able to sidestep that potential obstacle, but that was one of the first challenges for me, and as a non-traditional dental student. As far as the application process for residency, there really wasn't any obstacles. I did have a change in plans. I was actually at first applied for residency for a GPR program, and then I withdrew my application because I accepted a position, a direct ascension position in the Air Force for the military. But the obstacle actually came when I didn't pass the one part of my boards. Because in the military, you have to have a license. It doesn't have to be a license where you're actually going to be practicing as in the Air Force, but you just have to have one at least state license. So I ended up going to one of the residency programs that I withdrew my application from, and was there for a year, took my board exam, passed, and was able to the following year after my residency, was able to join the Air Force and get in that way. So that was my obstacle during residency, kind of like a side story of it.
You preaching to the choir. That happened to me.
I know. Same thing here. I'm not gonna lie. Boards are hard.
It's gonna happen. You know, it's part of the process. As far as obstacles for residents now that are applying, I think lots of times the obstacle is not knowing the information as to what is needed from the application process, or not knowing what to expect from the interview, how they should be preparing for it, how to come up with the list of programs that they may be interested in. You know, residency programs, the information about residency programs is totally different than it is about dental programs. As far as there's handbooks from the ADA and ASA about all the 67 or 68 dental schools. There's not a handbook for residency programs, which is a project I'm working on right now. But there's over 300 general dentistry residency programs throughout the country. So, and now not all of them are on the website. Not all of them have all the information on the website. So that's a big obstacle for a lot of people, trying to find out more details about the process. A lot of students will go to Student Doctor Network online, but all the information is not it's not concentrated enough so that it gives an applicant, a candidate, everything that they need to know about a program as they're going through the process. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges I think a lot of applicants have for residency programs.
Yeah, I have a question. Since you are the director, what is your ideal candidate that you're looking for? What are some qualities that you look for maybe during the interview process or even on applications in general?
Well, a lot of us are looking at your CV and we're looking at your personal statement. Most of the programs now are looking at, are utilizing the past application from VIA, which is the postgraduate admissions. I forget what past stands for. I should know it by heart. But it's the past application where you put all your information into one centralized application or document that's sent out to all the post-grad programs throughout the country. Some programs will also have you do a supplemental application. But what we're looking for typically is we're looking at your CV, right? And we're looking at your personal statement. Because once you put in your application, the next step, your next job is to get an interview. You can't get a position typically in a residency until you get the interview. So if you reverse engineer as to what comes before that to get to that interview is your application, right? Some of the things we're looking for leadership. We're looking for people that are teachable, coachable, And I would say we're also looking for people who understand and want to be part of the mission of the particular program, which will vary from institution to institution. That's why it's so important to know more about the program than what you may see online. And one of the things, or some of my mentees and people that I coach, I encourage them to go visit the program. The summer between your D3 and D4 year, you need to go visit the program. Get out of what I call, get out of obscurity. Go from unknown to being known just by doing a site visit and visiting the program. You maybe get a chance to meet the program director. If not, maybe a residency coordinator. Maybe he or she will guide you through and give you a tour of the program and get a chance to meet the chief residents and the current residents that are there, so you can talk to them a little bit. But those are the things that we're looking for. And then in the interview, just real quick, in the interview, you only get one chance to make a good first impression. And that starts from the time, it starts with your application and when you're submitting it early. Don't wait till the last minute or close to the deadline. By that time, most of the people have already been lined up for interviews. You want to submit it as early as possible, right? But also that first impression is, as soon as you walk in the door and you start meeting people at the interview, during the interview day. It may be the security guard. It may be one of the residents. It may be the residency coordinator. It may be an assistant. You don't know who is part of that admissions committee and who's going to give feedback about that person, about you as a candidate, as soon as you walk through the door. So that interview starts immediately. So we're looking for some feedback from those people, but also eye contact, how you talk. Are you making eye contact with the people? If there's several people that are interviewing, you need to be talking to that person, all across the table, right? Be interested.
In your podcast, do you give these tips as well, or what does your podcast entail?
We have some of those tips. Yep, we'll talk about how to be the best candidate. How to interview, what kind of questions you should be asking in the interview. We give some of those tips and strategies. We're actually putting together a new, putting together a new seminar on how to be the best dental school applicant and also how to be the best dental candidate for dental residency. And it'll touch upon a lot of the things that we're talking about right now, to help people be more aware, be more prepared, because it's not a dental school interview. It's similar, but there's some specific strategies, some tips that can make you stand out and be unique in that interview.
Exactly.
Now, going back to you, we do have a couple of questions that we want to ask. But one question I want to know is, has there been anybody like faculty member, whether undergrad, dental school, or even residency, that played like an instrumental role in your development and your life and your career choices?
Absolutely. I mean, it really started with my uncle. My uncle's a dentist, so I'm a second-generation dentist. My mom's brother is a dentist. And again, like I was telling you about my story, I kind of started into dentistry as an architect. Even though my dad is a dental technician and my uncle is a dentist who went to Meharry and graduated in the early 70s, dentistry wasn't a career that I had considered at the time. Mm-hmm. So one day we actually had a family reunion and my uncle was the guest speaker, and he's always been like a big brother, father figure in addition to my dad, but also being like a father figure. So I looked up to him. He was a role model. And I remember him talking about how great it was for family to be together. He had, he was in the midst of a family reunion where he hadn't seen some of cousins and aunts and uncles for years and years. And it just, like a light bulb went off. Like, I was like, oh, family business, dentistry. Yeah, I could be a dentist, work with my uncle on the family business and keep this train moving here.
Right.
And talk to him about it. He was like, you're a natural. hand-eye coordination, you know, you got the artistic background, you're creative, you just got to get that basic science down, you know. And so that was kind of like the entryway. In dental school, actually one of the most influential people or persons was our dental mother. Her name is Dr. Wilhelmina Gardner Brown. She was in the Office of Academic and Student Affairs at University of Maryland, and she was like the person that kind of ran the school from her office. And she was the one that, you know, students went to. They had issues and concerns about faculty members, about exams, about anything. And sure enough, if you listen to what she told you, you got through and got out. So that was probably one of the most influential persons in dental school. And there were some faculty members here and there that I remember working with, especially the faculty members that were part-time from the military, because they had a vast experience and they kind of put an extra layer on the learning that you were exposed to in clinic that wasn't just typically regular dental school learning. They kind of put a twist to it based on their experience and their being in the military. So I remember one professor, my senior year, kind of my D4 year, that was real instrumental. And then my residency, my chairman, Dr. Paul Gates, who was a revolutionary in dental, post-grad dental education. He was a former interim dean at Fairleigh Dickinson Dental School before it closed down in New Jersey in the 1990s. And he's been at Bronx, Lebanon for almost 30 years now as the chairman of the department. He's shaped and formed so many residents' lives, over probably close to 800 residents over the last 30 years. And that's probably one of the reasons why I'm back there now as program director, helping him in this phase of the department. So yeah, there you go.
Well, that's awesome. My last question before we get to the fun questions is, where do you see the trend of the profession going as far as like underrepresented applicants and professionals go?
The trend, what's happening? Mm-hmm. Well, I think we might have talked about this before, of the whole notion of diversity in dentistry. It probably started years ago. I don't know if you guys remember the numbers and the populations in your class, but at our class in Maryland, when we started out in 1994, it was almost 50%, 50-50 men and women. Mm-hmm. Some schools now, it's over that. We're more women than there are men, which is a total paradigm shift in the dental education and even in the dental profession. Can't put my finger on the numbers right now as far as the number of the 196,000 dentists, licensed dentists in the U.S. I can't recall what percentage of women and what are men, but I know it's changed. It's right. A big shift over the years. So that's something that will continue, primarily because dentistry is a great profession for a lot of women because of the quote unquote 9 to 5 hours, and allows them a lot of more flexibility in some areas, even if they are owners, but still it's very attractive for a lot of women. And it's attractive to a lot of men too at the same point. So I think that trend's going to continue. Of course, we know the whole trend about DSOs. You guys are part of that, and I've worked in those areas, those dental service organizations. Guess what? They ain't going away. They ain't going away. If anything, they're going to get bigger and bigger. I just saw today Pacific Dental Services, based out of Irvine, California. They have over 650 affiliated offices throughout the country.
Wow, already. And they're new. They're one of the newer organizations.
650. I mean, they're up there with Heartland and I think maybe Smile Brands, and I think Aspen is coming as 4th or 5th on the list. But guess what, guys? All those small practices or solo practitioners, they're starting to not be as many as they were 10, 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
A lot of them are having difficulty trying to find new dentists to partner with, to come in as associates, maybe possible owners. So that transition for them to give people as have associates buy into their practice, where they transition that associate now to the owner, a lot of those opportunities are not there anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a trend that's not going to go away. Also, the trend of student loan debt. We just talked about this on one of my weekly shows, This Week in Dentistry. We talked about the dental student school debt dilemma. And, you know, after hearing about NYU Medical School offering free tuition to all the students from now into perpetuity based on this grant that they just recently got, you know, it's making us think, well, shucks, why can't they do this in dentistry?
Exactly.
You know, and there's a lot of reasons why they haven't and may not even consider it, but hopefully it's something that will, you know, stir up some conversation to see how that can happen. But debt, you know, that trend, dental schools are not going to be getting any cheaper anytime soon.
I know.
The problem's going to be is, you know, now with debt being so high, are we going to start to see a shift from dental school applications going like this to start going down because of the debt?
Yeah.
You know, so that's a trend, or at least a trending topic that is always going to be, that's here presently, that's going to be there until we can kind of figure out what's happening. Another trend that's going, you know, there's always this notion about access to care, and whether or not there are enough dentists in certain areas. Again, this topic is based off of the notion of the student debt dilemma. People are not, when you're graduating out of dental school, people are not so very much enthusiastic to go into maybe an underserved population with reimbursement, you know, for a crown might be $200. You know, a lot of offices can't pay bills, and practitioners can't make a living with those types of fees, so they elect to not go in those areas, which causes an apparency that there's a shortage of dentists in certain areas.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of my colleagues and best friends, the endodontist, Dr. Rico Short, who's a root canal specialist to the stars down there in Atlanta. One of the things we've always been talking about is, you know, creating some type of legislation that awards dentists into going into those areas and reimbursing them, or having some kind of a loan repayment program, even if it's for 2 or 3 years. You have a cycle of people that are coming through, serving the underserved, but also making it advantageous and having some loan repayment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So that's a trend, and that's a topic, or a trending topic, that still is very open and that needs to be addressed, because we may start really having an issue with access to care, not having enough dentists, because people may not choose this career in dentistry.
Yeah. Because
of the debt. So, a lot going on.
Yes, sir. So now I found you to be a very personable guy, and we want our listeners to get to know you a little bit more on the personal side. So we have some funny questions to ask you.
And you just say the first thing that comes to mind.
First thing that comes to mind.
Gotcha.
Favorite type of music and favorite artist.
Favorite music, I like jazz and I like hip hop, but my favorite group is A Tribe Called Quest.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Tribe Called Quest. I even got my son on it now. Every that's our theme music before we get ready for a soccer game.
Okay.
And he gets into his groove, and I get in my groove, and boom, he has a great game.
Okay. What is your favorite sports team?
You know what? I don't have a favorite sports team. Even though I grew up in the Jersey, New York, Philly area, you know, growing up, it was always Phillies for baseball. It was either the Eagles or the Giants, but I really didn't have a favorite team. I have a favorite sport, which is track and field. I love track and field. Like I said, I ran in college. But now I'm getting back to soccer because my son is playing soccer, and I played as a kid and in high school. So I'm starting to like soccer all over again because of him.
Okay.
So if you weren't a dentist, what other career would you find yourself doing?
You know what? Something with networking and getting people together.
Okay.
So that could be in any field. I mean, I'm doing a little bit of that now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe I would have still been in not dentistry, in architecture.
Okay.
Or something similar to that, where we're doing makeovers of people's house, anything where there's some creativity involved, maybe something like that. Or speaking, speaking about a particular topic, going out and talking to the masses about maybe an idea or just a platform, being able to go out and speak, meet people.
Okay. Well, that is all for our fun questions now, but we thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your day, to talk to us about everything. I feel like I've learned a lot. Like, if I were going to reapply to a residency, I feel like now I would know what to do.
Do it totally different.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, check out Dr. Hayes at the New Dentist Coach on Instagram and social media. And definitely hit him up if you have any questions. Is there any way they can contact you outside of social media?
Yeah, the best way to contact me is right here for those of you that can see on the video, newdentistcoach@gmail.com. I get a lot of inquiries about getting into dental school, coming to the U.S. to become a dentist. I had people contact me from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Brazil, Mexico, Japan, Taiwan, about them wanting to come and practice in dentistry and what they need to do to be a licensed dentist. So you'd be surprised, but that's the best way to get in contact with me. Also, you can check out my YouTube page, my YouTube channel, Dr. Darwin Speaks. There are videos, interviews like this that we share with people all throughout the week on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and even Saturdays. That's also a way to follow me. And we're actually updating the website that's coming out soon, Darwin Hayes DDS, which will have all the information about my blogs, speaking engagements, coaching opportunities, my coaching series, Smiles to Success, where you can find me at the next event. So a lot of things we're putting together in one particular site that you'll be able to find very soon.
All right. We just want to wrap up and say thanks again for joining us today on this Saturday. And also to our listeners, definitely check out Dr. Hayes. And again, have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.